SQL stands for what? Structured Query Language. So here, in these three words, if you split, what is meant by structured? Structure means what? It is a proper shape, right? And also, you need to query. You need to query. So if you want to expectation the structure, and if you have the some query, you need to depend upon the one language, right? So here so many languages are there. Maybe in the programmatically, in the layman perspective also, right? So many languages are there. Why the language is required? To communicate each other. Yes or no? So for example, there is, in the layman perspective, Telugu language is there, English is there, Hindi is there, Malayalam, Tamil, so many languages are there. Why the language is required? Because we need to communicate with the two parties. For example, I know Tamil, you know Telugu, so both of only individual language, like I know in Tamil, you know the Telugu, so how to communicate each other? No, I don't know Tamil, I don't know Telugu, only I know the Tamil, but you know the Telugu, but you don't know the Tamil. So if you want to communicate each other, it is not at all possible. If you want to communicate two languages, who knows that the translator is required, right? That the translator is nothing but what? SQL here. Okay, you have the something in your mind, you are going to contact with the database. So how you are communicating with the database? If you want to communicate, one mediator is required, one middle layer is required. That middle layer is nothing but what? SQL. I hope you got the clarity, right? So I know the Tamil, you know the Telugu, but both languages no one knows. Both languages no one knows. But if you want to communicate each other, one translator is required. But that translator should be aware of both languages. Yes or no? Right? So whenever that person, that mediator, or maybe the translator should know, then he can able to translate both languages in understandable format, right? That the translator here is nothing but what? SQL. Here, see, there is a database, and you have some presentation layer you have. If you want to send the details to the database, if you want to store the data persistently or permanently, you need to communicate via SQL, right? Let's say see here, for example, this is my application form, some Naukri application, naukri.com, right? But if you want to store your details into the database, into the database, so if you want to store whatever the details you are giving here, okay, whatever the details you are providing, so all these details, if you want to store into the database, how you are communicating here? So details are there. If you want to communicate database, then if you want to communicate to any database, this is what a database. Maybe the database might be Oracle, maybe SQL Server, maybe Postgres, maybe DB2, MySQL. So many database softwares are there, right? Okay, so if you want to store whatever the details you are giving from the naukri.com, if you want to store the details into the database, internally the mediator is required. That mediator is nothing but what? SQL. What is that? SQL. Right? So through SQL only, whatever the data you are giving from this front end, it can be stored into the database. Got my point? So that's why this is the mediator, or this is the translator between our front end and back end. Okay, right guys, now come to our concept. What is meant by SQL? SQL stands for what? Structured query language. Structured query language. Next one, it is a non-procedural language. What is that? It is a non-procedural language which is used to communicate with any database. It can be communicate with any database, such as, what are the databases? Such as Oracle, SQL Server, MySQL, Postgres, and etc. Okay guys, so it is a non-procedural language. Which is used to communicate with what? Any database, such as what? Oracle database, okay, SQL Server database, MySQL database, Postgres database, DB2 database. So many databases are there in the world, right? So if you want to communicate any database software, we need to use what? SQL. That's why I'm telling. So I know the Tamil, you know the Telugu. If you want to communicate each other, that one translator is required. That translator is nothing but what? SQL. What is that? That a translator is nothing but SQL. That's why it is a non-procedural language which is used to communicate with any database software, that is Oracle database software, MySQL database software, SQL Server database software, and Postgres database software, whatever it may be. If you want to communicate, that is possible to communicate through SQL. Okay, I hope you got the clarity, right guys? Okay, now this language was developed by German scientist. This language, who is developed? This language was developed by whom? Developed by German scientist. His name called what? Mr. E.F. Cod. Okay, E.F. Cod. Okay, there is a Cod rule, CF Cod rules also there. He only introduced those rules. Okay, we will going to explain here. Okay, now in which year? In 1968. In 1968. Okay, so if anyone asked, okay guys, who is developed that SQL? you can strongly say that developed by German scientist. His name called what? Mr. E.F. Cod. Mr. E.F. Cod. E.F. Cod. Next one. Next one. Okay. So ANSI, did you heard about it? ANSI. ANSI. Did you heard about it? No, no. Okay. While learning C, might be if your background CSC or MCA something like that, so might be ANSI C. Yes, 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 Lavanya. Okay. ANSI C stands for what? ANSI stands for what? American American National American National Standard Standard American National Standard, what is that? Institute. Okay. ANSI approved this concept. Okay. ANSI approved this concept approved this concept. Okay. Approved concept in 1972. In 1972, SQL was released. SQL was released into the market. Actually, he developed in 1968, but it was entered into the market in what? When? 1972. Okay, right, guys. So this is about what little bit about the SQL. Okay, but SQL have the some features. SQL have the some features. Okay, so we are going to discuss about SQL features. Okay, what is that? Features of SQL. Features of what? SQL. What are the features how the SQL? Okay, so for whatever you discussed, guys, so I repeat once again, SQL stands for structured query language. It is a non-procedural language which is used to communicate with any database software such as what? Oracle, SQL Server, MySQL, Postgres, DB2, these are all. Okay, this language was developed by whom? Is a German scientist. His name called what? Mr. E.F. Cod in 1968. Okay, next one. ANSI approved this language here. Approved. Okay, and it was released into the market in 1972. It was released into the market when? 1972. Okay, next one. The features of SQL. What are the features you have the SQL? See, SQL is not a case sensitive language. Right? The first feature is what? SQL is not a case sensitive. Case sensitive means what? There is a case, right? Upper case, lower case, right? So you can give any case, it can be accepted. Okay, if it is a case sensitive, whatever the case you are, it is accepting, that case only you need to pass, you need to give those comments. Otherwise, it won't be accepted. But here, the SQL is not a case sensitive. SQL is not a case sensitive. It means what? It means that all the commands of SQL are not case sensitive. See, everything is the command here. If you want to create the table, you need to use what? Create command. If you want to insert the information or maybe data into the table, you need to use what? Insert. If you want update, you can use the update. You can delete. There is a commands, right? So here that SQL is not a case sensitive. It means that all the commands that all the commands of SQL are not case sensitive. That means you can give any case, either uppercase, either lower case, while entering the commands like whatever you are suppose creating table. So create table name. You can give any case, it can be accepted. That's what I'm trying to convey. Okay, right. Next feature. Every command of SQL should ends with what? Semicolon. But it is the assumption for SQL server. But in the Oracle, it is mandatory here. Without semicolon, might be it is still expecting semicolon, it won't be end the command. But in the SQL, it is what? Optional. See, every command of SQL should ends with what? Semicolon. Okay, semicolon. What is that semicolon? This is what colon here. Okay, shift. This is what colon. Semicolon means what? This one. Okay, na? Right. We are expecting what? A semicolon. Every command of the SQL should ends with a semicolon. Okay, but it is assumption. It is assumption for SQL server. You can keep it a bracket. Okay, right guys. Next feature. See, SQL can be pronounced as SQL. Am I right? SQL. Sometimes you are calling like a SQL, right? Yeah. Now SQL can be pronounced. SQL can be pronounced as what? SQL. What? Pronounced as what? SQL. Okay, that is what? There is some abbreviation also. Okay, see, SQL might be you are calling as what? Structured query language. So here S stands for, guys, listen very carefully. Structured. E stands for what? E stands for what? English. E stands for what? English. Query language. Okay, SQL can be pronounced as what? SQL. SQL is S stands for what? Structured. E stands for what? English. QUE stands for what? Query. L stands for what? Here, language. Okay, I hope you got the clarity. Okay, next one. SQL can be called as what? Command language interface. What is that? SQL can be called as what? Command language interface. Command language interface. Okay, na? Command language interface, which is used to communicate with what? Any type of database software. Which is used to communicate with any database software or any type of database. So this is another feature. Okay, the next feature. See, the SQL can be called as what? NLI. Okay, SQL can also called as what? NLI. What is that? National? No. Okay. So N stands for what? Natural. Okay. Natural language interface. Natural language interface. What is this, sir? Exactly. It means, what is this? It means that all the SQL commands, SQL commands, SQL commands, that all SQL commands are are almost similar to normal normal English language. Yes or no? Normal English language. So that's what it is calling as what? NLI. That is what? Natural. Okay, language interface. It means that all the SQL commands are almost similar to what? Similar to normal English language here. So that's what. Okay, these are all the features here. Okay, right. The next one, the last feature, see, structured query language is mainly divided into some sub languages. Okay, SQL, okay, is mainly divided into four sub languages. What are those languages? Can you tell me briefly? Okay, one is what? You might be some people aware of that. Okay, DDL. DDL stands for what, guys? DDL, data definition language. Okay, na? Data definition language. So the second language, DML. DML stands for data manipulation language. The third one is what? TCL. TCL stands for transaction control language. Okay, that is third one. Fourth one is what? Fourth one, DCL. DCL stands for what? D stands for data. C stands for what? C stands for what? Control. Okay, data control language. Okay, na? So these are all about it. What? The sub languages of what? SQL. The sub languages of what? SQL. So guys, so far whatever you discussed, can you briefly explain? Okay, right. So SQL stands for what? Structured query language. Everyone should be understand. Okay, it is a non-procedural language. So, and which is used to communicate with what? Any database software, such as what? Oracle database software, SQL database software, MySQL database software. Okay, it can be communicate any kind of database software here. Okay, so it was next point. So this language, which language? Not Java language. This language what? Structured query language. This language was developed by whom? German scientist. His name called what? E.F. Cod in 1968. Okay, so that and the next point, this SQL ANSI also approved in, and it was released into the market in 1972. So this is all about it. What? SQL. Okay, right. Now there is a features of the SQL. You need to know the features of is what? The person qualities. Am I right? In layman perspective, the person quality is okay, is good man, is the bad man, bad person, or maybe is intelligent or something like that, right? Similarly, the SQL also have some features, some qualities. Okay, what is this? The SQL is not a case sensitive. That means you can give that commands either in the upper case or either in the lower case. It can be accepted. That's what it is, not a case sensitive. Okay, right. Next one. Every command in SQL should be end with what? Semicolon. But it is exemption for what? SQL server. But in the other database softwares, might we can use the Oracle, you can use the MySQL, you can use the Postgres, you can use the DB2, whatever the database softwares you are going to work, you should be end with semicolon. Any statement. Otherwise, it won't be executed. But here, in the SQL server, this is what? An optional. Okay, next one. That SQL is also calling as what? The SQL. See, S stands for what? Structured. E stands for what? English. QUE stands for what? Query. L stands for language. And SQL can also called as what? Command line, command language interface. Okay, next one. SQL is also called as what? NLI, that is what? Natural language interface. That is, it is almost similar to a normal English language, right? For example, DDL command, data, you know that it is what? In normal English language. Definition, this is also normal English language, right? It is not specific to some other languages, French, something like that. Okay, right. So manipulation, control, transaction, these are all what? Normal English language, you know. So that's why that SQL is also calling as what? NLI. What is that? NLI. Okay, no? Guys, see, this is our PPTs. Okay, whatever we discussed, everything is there. Okay, we will going to share all this information to you. Okay, right. Next one. So here, before working with the SQL, first of all, you need to know what is meant by data. You need to know what is meant by information. You need to know what is meant by database. How many types of databases are there? So you need to know all those things. Okay, so can you start from the scratch? Okay, why Dbms is required? What is meant by data? First of all, what is meant by information? So, and what is meant by database? How many types of databases are there? We need to know before to start DDL commands. That is these sub languages. Or maybe if you, before working with the SQL, first of all you need to know some basic information. Okay, right. So now we are going to what? To discuss about what is meant by data. Okay, first of all, what is meant by data? So these are all going to discuss here. Data. What do you mean by data? Some people like saying what? Raw facts. Data is nothing but raw facts. Maybe data is nothing but what? Figures. Huh? So yes, of course, this is also acceptable. But first of all, you need to know what is meant by data. Guys, data is different. Information is different. Data is different. Information is different. Okay, no? So let me tell you what is meant by data. Data is nothing but what? Whatever you are, whatever you are inputting, that is what? Whatever you are giving the input, whatever you are inputting from the keyboard, keyboard, is known as what? Is known as what? Data. Right, guys? Data, whatever you are giving the input here from the keyboard, that is known as what? Data. Okay. So next, it is also called as what? It is also called as what? Raw facts. Okay, what is that? Raw facts or figures. Figures also. This is what? Data. Okay, next one. See, guys, data, is it providing any information? Huh? See, data never provide any information. See, guys, for example, you see the image, something. Okay, so might be one image is there. So that is like there is a it is looking some outside. So what does this mean? No, you don't know anything about it. That image. Am I right? Similarly, data never provides any meaning. That is what? Unformatted information here. Unformatted information, the single word. Data never provides. Data never provides any meaning for us. Okay. If you want to require the meaningful information, then you need to go for what? Information. Simpler example for the data. Gold biscuit is there, right? Gold biscuit. So if you wear that gold biscuit, is there any meaning? No. People might be looking differently. Oh, is some different guys. Okay. You need to take very special care. Some people thinking like that. Okay. Whenever you are wearing a very excellent ornament, like maybe ring, diamond ring or whatever, maybe chain or bracelet or whatever the ornament you are wearing, you have the something in the society, right? Might be if you are wearing that gold biscuit, no one care about you. Even you have the thousands of gold biscuits, you are wearing your entire body, so looks like what? No, it is not good, right? So similarly, here data is nothing but what here? Gold biscuit. Okay, there is no formation for that. Okay, so whenever you are thinking this gold biscuit to become as a beautiful ornament, that beautiful ornament is nothing but what? Information. Okay, right, let me explain about the information. Information means what? Processed data. Processed data is known as what? Information. Processed data, that is, so for example, come to the lemon example. There is a gold biscuit. Whenever it is properly processed, might be it might be helpful to prepare some a beautiful ornament. That is nothing but what? Information. That ornament is nothing but information. That gold biscuit is nothing but what? Data. Right? Next one. So information is always gives what? Information always gives what? Always gives meaning for us. Okay, na? So this is what information. Okay, so now what do you mean by data? What do you mean by information? The next one, database. What do you mean by database? What do you mean by database? Database is nothing but, guys, one after another there is a link. Okay, for example, see, Here you have the data, right? After that is going to what? It is going to formatted as what? Information. Information. So after that, next link is what? Database. Next link is what? Database. See, one concept to another concept, we have the some link here. Okay, so here this is what? This is what? Database. Okay, so first of all you need to understand what is meant by database. Database is nothing but a collection of information. Collection of information belongs to a particular topic. Okay, collection of information. Collection of information belongs to a particular a particular a particular topic within the bracket, an organization, an organization an organization. Okay, written in a predetermined 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 manner predetermined manner. Okay, stored stored at a particular place particular place particular place is called as what? Database. See, collection of information belongs to a particular topic, that is an organization might be. So written in a predetermined manner, stored in a particular place. That place is nothing but what? Database. Simple. Let me tell you. This is what your database. So once you have the data within the unformatted, you need to format. Once you format, you need to store into what? Database software. Okay, whatever the database software you are using with the help of what? SQL, right? Okay, so this is the concept. So data, information and databases. Okay, right. The next word there is dbms. Dbms stands for what? uh, Dbms stands for what? Database. D stands for a data, B stands for a base, M stands for what? Management. S stands for what? System. S stands for what? System. Database management system. Okay, right. Guys, so what do you mean by DBMS? DBMS stands for what? It is a software. It is a software because you need to store. You have the database, but internally there is what? One system it is there. That system name called what? Database management system. See, it is a software which is present which is present inside the database, which is present inside the database. Okay, which can be maintained and manage the data within the database, right? Okay, so you have what is meant by DBMS. It is a software which is present inside the database, which can be maintained, and manage the data within the database. Here I have the one question, guys. I have the one question. Why DBMS? Why DBMS? Okay, this is my question. So far, data, information, database, and DBMS. Okay, DBMS means what? It is a software. It is present inside the database software, which can be maintained and manage the data within the database. Okay, I agree. But what is meant by DBMS? Okay, why it is required, the DBMS? Might be you have some doubt, right? See, DBMS. See, for example, let's say in the layman perspective, then you can able to easily understand, right? See, human needs an increased tremendously. Now the people are doing much more composite task than ever before, but the society has become very complex. A person has to work huge amount of information every day. Am I right? For example, you can take ICICI Bank or maybe HDFC Bank. So per day in the worldwide, they are doing some millions of people might be visiting the banks and doing their own transaction, right? Okay, na? A person has to work with a huge amount of information every day. But in order to work with the anonymous information, you must have a system, right? The system is required. You must have a system where you can store, manipulate, and share the information all over the world. For example, yeah. So if you get the job, then you can maybe settle in the some abroad. Okay, might be you are sending the some maybe you are sending the amount money to your parents. Okay, that should be visible across the world, right? It is not specific to a country, it is not specific to a state, it is not particular a place, right? So that's why whatever you must have a system where you can store, comma, and manipulate and to store the information all over the world. It is the one of the core reason for introducing the DBMS, guys. Right? It is the only one core reason to introduce the DBMS. Okay, and also you're also calling us like what? RDBMS. Nowadays, what are DBMS? So there is a types of DBMSs are there, guys. Okay, we can discuss about that types of DBMS that maybe NDBMS, HDBMS, RDBMS. So many things are there. R stands for water relational, but now n number of databases are DBMSs are there, but we are focusing on what? RDBMS only. Okay, I hope you got the clarity. So why the DBMS is required? Why the DBMS is required? Okay, the people might be doing every day a huge amount of information, right? Every day, right? So in order to, you need to work with what? Some information. You must have a system where we can store, manipulate, and share the information all over the world, right? It is the one of the core reason to introducing the DBMS, guys. That is database management system, as well as RDBMS. That is what? Relational database management system. So this is about today's session. Okay, what is meant by SQL? What are the features of the SQL? And so before starting the coding with SQL, first you need to understand some background. First of all, what is meant by data? What is meant by information? Guys, without move the first step to second step to third, can you go move to directly 10th step? No, right? It never be happened, right? So something you need to remember. You are going what? From scratch. What is meant by data? What is meant by information? What is meant by database? What is meant by DBMS? So there is a step-by-step procedure here. Okay, you need to come like that. If you learn like that, you can challenge in the IT industry 3 to 5 years of gap of experience. You can cover. Okay, why the DBMS is required? We already discussed it, right? Okay, right, guys. So this is all about it. What today's session, guys. So tomorrow we can step by step. Okay, you need to learn like that. You will have the more knowledge. You can able to gain the more knowledge on that. Okay, we can directly start, sir. You can directly start the create the table. You can insert the records. You can delete the records. You can update the records. You can fetch the records from the database. Can you write the joins? Okay, don't ask like that. See, that is, we are going to discuss, but before starting those concepts, there is a lot of background is there, lot of basics are there, right? So any technology, anything, basics are basics. See, guys, if you are constructing a apartment, right? Okay, 10 floors apartment or maybe 5 floors apartment or whatever. Foundation is what, strong or weak? Foundation should be uh, foundation should be strong. Uh, so that's why whenever the foundation is strong, then you can not only single floor here, you can take one more up to 10 floors. You can, no, not an issue. Okay, right? In abroad might be 20 floors buildings, 30 floor buildings, 100 floors buildings also there. Yeah, how it is possible? How it is possible? The foundation is strong. That's what here the foundation is nothing but what? Basics are basics. Okay, right? Okay, every day we are discussing like what? Theory and practical. And okay, right, everything you are whatever you are going to present in the practically. Before that we are discussing theoretically. After that you are going for what? Practical. Okay, everything the practical and theory are okay, right, guys? You can enjoy the session every day. Okay, please come to the please connect every day. Okay, we will give the a good information from online IT with the end. Okay, right, guys? Okay, the rest of the things, if you have any queries, please, I already shared the numbers. You can reach out to my online IT with the team. Okay, they will help you on that. Okay, okay, guys. Yeah. Okay, tomorrow we can discuss, guys. Okay, thank you one and all. We'll see you tomorrow. Thank you. Have a great day. Yeah.